Hi, this is Scott Epp, and I'm here with Victor. Say hi, Victor. Hello. All right. And we are in a coaching session right now in March the 7th. And right now we're talking about, and we have been talking about some of Victor's big dreams that he has. And we've talked about some books and some other things, but what we've decided to do is do a little video so that Victor, you'd be able to see this at a later time, and you'd be able to rekindle that dream or rekindle your spirit for that dream at a later time, or watch this as a video at a later time to refresh your mind on where you're going and what your goal and what your dream is. All right. So Victor, if you wouldn't mind, would you be able to tell me, and I'm just going to hold this up here so you can just look at me, don't worry about this thing. Would you be able to tell me what your dream is, and just start at the beginning?
Well, my dream is to write a book that's got the chapter 2 on all these great little stories. So what I'll do is I'll give the quote, the full reference to where I got it from. For instance, the Starfish story. I found that one on the internet. It's just a little story.
Yeah, why don't you say what that story is?
Well, this is about a man who was visiting the coast, and he was watching this boy, a young man, looked like he was dancing to greet the sunrise. He thought that was kind of cool. And then he went a little closer and saw what he was actually doing. He wasn't just bending down and then jumping up. He was bending down and picking up a starfish and throwing it back out to sea. He was saving their individual lives. The old man saw thousands of starfish, and he thought it rather pointless. So he explained to the young man, what you're doing is making no difference at all. And the young man just bent down, picked one up, and threw it back out to sea. He says it made a difference to that one. So he was saving the life of his starfish. Some of them. I like that story.
It's a great story, isn't it?
Yeah. And I had read it before and I liked it. And then one night I was sitting at a recovery meeting, and for some reason 2 bubbles sort of went down my head. They were encompassed. It wasn't a visual thing, it felt like 2 drops of rain. And the first one was that story. And the second one was chapter 2, which I had never heard. And that got me thinking that I should write this down. Because there was no chapter 2 that I know of. And I wrote it. It came to me when the drop exploded like a dream. Just poofed. I was just sitting in the meeting, and these 2 little dots dropped in my head, and later they exploded to reveal what they were. The first one was that first story. That happened while I was at the meeting. I remember that. And I didn't know what the second one was. I had never heard of it before.
Okay.
I had never heard of it. It was mine. It was my idea. And I thought to write a bunch of these and make the book, give full credit to the original story, and write the chapter 2. That's what I was going to do. So that's what I still intend to do. Is write the chapter 2 on all these stories. Starfish story is one example. And I had a small set.
So, if you don't mind, so help me understand the bubbles again.
Oh, the one too? Well, they were thoughts. But they exploded into a little bit more than just a thought. Like the first one was the full starfish story. And I had read it before. It came down, I didn't know what it was, and the other one came down too. And the first one exploded into its full example of the story,
Yeah.
I think within an hour. And the other one came a little bit later. I did not know what was going on, but that inspired me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the idea yet to make a book. That came later.
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh, that's awesome, Victor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And that inspiration has remained with you. And part of the reason why I know that it's remained with you is because you talk about it. You and I talk about this, frequently, about the ideas that you have. And those ideas keep on coming up. And they grow a little bit sometimes when we talk about them too. For instance, that one time that we did that little drawing of the turtle and the snail.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because that's a great story too that you want to write. So why don't you tell about the turtle and the snail story that you want to write about?
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of making a cartoon and calling it Tortoise on a Rampage.
That's awesome.
I'll have to explore what are the characters. Because a cartoon has to have some subsidiary characters.
Right. Yes.
I haven't got that fully digested yet.
Yeah.
But it started because there's the cartoon BC, and it's got a tortoise in there, and it has other characters, and so I'm thinking of looking at it from that angle, from the tortoise as the main character and the other characters too. They'll probably be animals. Makes sense?
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah. So the idea there comes from the tortoise and the hare story. So just like the starfish story, the second thoughts on some spiritual parables, which is the idea of this book, you tell the story, the original story of the tortoise and the hare, and how the hare was, all cocky and arrogant and took time off here, but the long and steady race of the tortoise won the race.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of putting that in the book. I might. I don't know what the chapter 2 would be, but I could think about that.
Well, let's dream about that. That's a great one. Sure. Yeah. So what other dreams do you aspire for? We're talking about the book. We're talking about that idea and the inspirations, because you're so creative. And you're not just creative, Victor, but you also have a very smart mind. You can be analytical, and you're an incredible mathematician, and you love to think from that strategic kind of place. I know that because you're darn hard to beat in chess. And you teach me lessons when we play that, and I've always considered myself to be pretty good at that game. So just that aspect of your mind. What's really cool that I like about that is that some people are really dominant on one side of their brain. They call it the left side and the right side brains. The creative side, which is the right, and of course the analytical, logical side, which is the left. But you can play in both. So we're talking about a completeness that really can complement you as you aspire towards some of these goals and dreams that you have. So that's great. What do you think about that?
Well, that's very interesting. I'm literal about that. Like a long time ago, maybe half my life ago, I learned to write with my other hand.
Yeah.
And then to print first, that only took a few days. And writing a couple of weeks, and it was getting better. I was just slower, and it was a very young style when I first was writing with my right hand. It looked like when I was a kid. The letters were big. It was funny. But, oh yeah, when I was doing this, I was exploring things. I was exploring the creative side, you might say. Well, this was, I was unemployed for, I guess, a few months.
Yeah.
And I was just doing all sorts of little things. They were unusual for me. Like, you heard of the Omni magazine?
Yeah.
And I was exploring in one of their articles. They had the hardest IQ test in the world.
Okay.
Well, that appealed to me. It was really hard. So many
Yes.
questions. They were not kidding. But I had so much time. One of the questions, it took me a week to solve it. This is trivia. I hadn't thought about it for a long time. It was a Rubik's Cube of cheese,
Okay.
and there's a mouse that enters, and what he does is he follows a specific kind of path. He eats his way into the middle of the one cube
Yeah.
from outside, and then he eats his way to the middle of the next cube. And the question is, what's the longest path he can possibly take if he always takes a right angle turn after he goes one, then he has to take a right angle turn.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
That's a hard problem.
Yes.
The answer, of course, is not 27. That's easy to prove. He can't go through the wall, but he can go through. And it took me several days to be able to prove that he couldn't do 26. It took me like 8 examples, 8 cases
Yeah.
to prove it. Every one of them was impossible. And so I was stuck between 24 that I could think of an example for, like to work out what the path was.
Yeah.
And I did. I was stuck between 24, I had an example, and 26, I could prove it's impossible. And I didn't know about 25. I had to work on that for a few more days. I actually found an example of 25.
Oh, did you? Okay. Oh, cool.
That was hard.
And that was the right answer?
Well, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, sure.
I know it was.
Yeah.
I solved the problem. That took me 2 weeks. You have to have nothing that draws your attention away. To be able to commit your time and your attention to
Yes, right.
I suppose. That was very different for me.
Yeah.
I
I
was
can
unemployed,
imagine.
like I said. And a little after I finished that test, and a few other things, the handwriting, I learned that.
Yeah.
I got a job again.
Oh, yes.
So that was cool.
Cool. Let's go back to some of your dreams, Victor. So, we talked about the dream of doing the book.
Mhm.
That's great. And we talked about some of the stories and maybe having a little cartoon in there. And tell more about the book and what you want to do, like to give it away and stuff. You told me about that. We talked about that before.
Oh yeah, sure. I want to make no money on it. I just would like if it covers its expenses, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to let it be cheap. I just wanted to write it.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of another book. A long time ago, I was thinking of writing a book about. It was a novel,
Mm-hmm.
like a fictional thing, about what's that phrase? The perpetual youth.
Mm-hmm.
That myth.
Oh, yeah. We talked about the Fountain of Youth, for sure.
The Fountain of Youth,
Yes.
yeah, that's the one. And I was starting to write that. It was a summer. I was like 18,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just working delivering pizzas. So I had some time while I was waiting for delivery. I would work on this. I worked out the general outline of the story. I named the characters. There were 2. And what they were going to be is they started as young men, and then they became old, and then they dropped into this Fountain of Youth.
Nice.
And then they were young again, and so they weren't recognized. They made their escape.
Nice.
They were being followed by someone, I forget who. I haven't thought about that book for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would like to write that sucker. I think I have it in my head somewhere. Pretty sure.
Nice,
I
yeah.
wrote the outline of it. I didn't write the book. I wrote the first chapter. And that's all I did on that one.
Nice, yeah.
But I'd like to.
Good. Oh, that'd be great.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. That'd be very cool. Very cool. I see you beam when you talked about your dreams.
Mhm.
I see you beam, and I've talked to you about this briefly before. There's actual studies that indicate and show scientifically, and there's a doctor actually out of the States that actually proved that he did a whole bunch of studies on some people that were in his case study, I guess, and he proved that in his theory, I should say, that people who dream and are working towards their dreams live 7 years longer than those people that don't. And in his analysis, he suggests that a big part of that is that your brain switches off when when it has nothing to do, when it doesn't feel useful anymore.
Mm.
So one of the biggest things that I take from that as a coach is that it's very important for me to communicate and to ask the questions of my clients, and when I talk with you, to communicate and ask the questions with you of how you are working towards one of your dreams, or maybe many of your dreams at the same time. And I love to see you beam. I love to see the energy that you bring and the smile. And when we talk about your dreams, it's like you light up. You're a new person, and that's fantastic. And I just feel that there's so much in just walking towards something that's worthwhile.
Mhm.
The energy, the empowerment, the belief, the spiritual side of it that comes with that too, and the creativity, of course, as well. So I encourage you with that, and I think this is great. These are my favorite sessions that we get to have when we talk about your dreams. But obviously, we've also been talking about the next steps, and one of the next steps we've talked about as well is whether or not we get an inexpensive computer for you that can help, or whether or not we decide to actually start writing some stuff together, or how that looks. So we'll continue to have those conversations as we actually take a look at starting some action steps. So what do you think about some next steps towards pursuing your dreams? What would some of the next steps be in your mind?
Well, to get an actual computer. I had one, and I think I got the rough outline of a few stories
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to use the first draft of the original stories.
Mm.
And I had some of them. I picked them, a few of them. And I don't remember off the top of my head what they were, except the starters. And I had started to expand the book
Mm-hmm.
to what it was going to be, but I've only done about 1/3 of the stories I think that I want.
Okay, yeah.
I think I wanted about a dozen.
Okay, about a dozen. Okay.
Something like that.
Well, that's a good number. So perhaps what I could do is encourage you to start. We said that we'd wait till Mom and Dad came back from their vacation, but perhaps what I could do is encourage you to actually take that next step